Today our topic is the problem of evil. Can it ever be solved? This is one of the oldest and most difficult questions in philosophy and religion. It has troubled thinkers, believers, and ordinary people for thousands of years. The problem of evil asks how evil can exist in a world that is supposedly created and governed by a good, all-powerful, and all-knowing God. If God is good, why is there suffering, pain, and injustice? If God is all-powerful, why doesn't he stop evil? If God is all-knowing, why does he allow bad things to happen to good people? These questions are not just abstract ideas. They touch the deepest parts of our lives. We see evil every day in wars, diseases, natural disasters, and the cruelty people show to one another. How can we make sense of this? Can we ever solve the problem of evil? Or is it something we just have to live with? Let's explore this question from different angles, including philosophy, religion, and personal experience. First, let's look at the problem of evil from a religious perspective. Many religions, especially Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, believe in a God who is perfectly good, all-powerful, and all-knowing. But if this is true, why does evil exist? Some religious thinkers say that evil is not caused by God, but by human free will. They argue that God gave humans the freedom to choose between good and evil because without free will, we would be like robots, unable to truly love or do good. But with free will comes the possibility of choosing evil. This is called the free will defense. It suggests that evil is the price we pay for having the freedom to make our own choices. But this raises another question. Why doesn't God stop evil when it happens? If a child is suffering, why doesn't God intervene? Some say that God allows suffering because it can lead to greater good. For example, suffering can make people stronger, more compassionate, or more faithful. But this is hard to accept when we see innocent people suffering. Another religious idea is that evil is a test. Some believe that life is a test of our faith and character, and that suffering helps us grow spiritually. But this can also be hard to accept, especially when the suffering seems so unfair. Why should a child suffer to test someone else's faith? Some religions, like Buddhism and Hinduism, see evil and suffering as part of a larger cycle of cause and effect called karma. They believe that our actions in this life, or past lives, determine our future, and that suffering is a result of bad karma. But this raises questions about justice and fairness. Why should someone suffer for something they did in a past life that they don't even remember? Now let's look at the problem of evil from a philosophical perspective. Philosophers have tried to explain evil in different ways. Some, like the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus, argued that if God is unwilling to stop evil, he is not good. If he is unable to stop evil, he is not all-powerful. And if he is both willing and able, then why does evil exist? This is known as the Epicurean paradox. It challenges the idea of an all-good, all-powerful God. Other philosophers like Leibniz suggested that this is the best of all possible worlds. He argued that even though there is evil, the world as a whole is still the best it could be. But this is hard to believe when we see so much suffering and injustice. Another philosophical approach is to deny the existence of evil altogether. Some thinkers, like Spinoza, argued that evil is just a human concept, not something real. They say that what we call evil is just a lack of good, like darkness is the absence of light. But this doesn't help us when we feel pain or see others suffering. It doesn't explain why bad things happen or how we should deal with them. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers a different way to think about evil and suffering. The Stoics believe that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. They taught that suffering is not evil in itself, but our judgment of it as evil is what causes us pain. If we change our mindset and accept what happens as part of the natural order, we can find peace and strength. The Stoics believed that everything happens for a reason, even if we don't understand it. They said that we should focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, and let go of what we cannot control. This can be helpful in dealing with suffering, but it doesn't solve the problem of evil. It just helps us cope with it. From a personal perspective, the problem of evil is not just an intellectual puzzle. It's something we feel in our hearts. When we lose a loved one, when we face a serious illness, or when we see injustice in the world, we ask, why is this happening? We want answers, but often there are none. Some people find comfort in religion, believing that God has a plan and that everything happens for a reason. Others find comfort in philosophy, learning to accept what they cannot change. Still others find comfort in helping others, turning their pain into purpose. So, can the problem of evil ever be solved? The truth is, there is no easy answer. Evil and suffering are part of life, and no explanation can take away the pain they cause. But perhaps the problem of evil is not something to be solved, but something to be lived with. We may never understand why evil exists, but we can choose how we respond to it. We can choose to be kind, to help others, and to find meaning in our suffering. We can choose to focus on the good in the world, even when there is so much bad. In the end, the problem of evil may be less about finding answers, and more about finding hope. Hope that, despite the suffering, life is still worth living. Hope that, even in the darkest times, there is light. Hope that, even if we can't solve the problem of evil, we can still make the world a better place. This is not an easy path, but it is a meaningful one. It reminds us that, even in the face of evil, we have the power to choose love, courage, and compassion. And perhaps, in the end, that is the best answer we can find. The problem of evil will always be with us, but so will our ability to face it with strength and dignity. We may not be able to eliminate evil, but we can reduce it by our actions. We can fight injustice, help those in need, and spread kindness wherever we go. We may not be able to answer all the questions, but we can live in a way that brings light to the darkness. And maybe that is enough. So, what can we do? First, we can accept that life is not perfect. There will always be suffering, pain, and injustice. But we can also accept that life is still beautiful, meaningful, and worth living. Second, we can focus on what we can control. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond. We can choose to be kind, to be brave, and to make the best of every situation. Third, we can find meaning in our suffering. Even in the darkest times, we can learn, grow, and become stronger. And finally, we can help others. When we see suffering, we can do something about it. We can be the light in someone else's darkness. The problem of evil may never be solved, but we can still live good lives. We can still find joy, love, and meaning. We can still make a difference. And perhaps, in the end, that is the best we can do. Life is not about avoiding suffering. It's about how we face it. It's about how we grow, how we love, and how we make the world a better place. So, let us face the problem of evil not with despair, but with hope. Let us face it with courage, with compassion, and with the belief that even in the face of evil, life is still worth living.